This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss a blend of heavy and extreme music. On this episode, the Dillinger Escape Plan, Ire Works. This album was released in 2007 on Relapse Records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
So I remember everyone telling me to listen to Calculating Infinity, which is their first album, and I tried it and I didn't like it, and so I've never really got back into Dillinger. But this is your pick, Casey. Why'd you pick Ire Works?
So I'm with you. I think I listened to Calculating Infinity, didn't really like it. And then about 10 years ago, kind of got back into Dillinger and started listening to some of their newer stuff. And then kind of circled back and started listening to the older stuff.
Did you get into Calculating Infinity eventually?
No, not really. It's still kind of there, but I still don't think it's as good as some of their later stuff.
I'm still not the biggest fan of that album either.
But are you a Dillinger fan?
Yeah, I've always been a Dillinger fan.
I think it was you and Kai who kind of pushed me into Dillinger.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Kai?
Just some dude.
So this is described as mathcore?
I would say this is mathcore, this is hardcore, this is post-hardcore, this is electronic at times.
Yeah, definitely.
But anything core at the end of it, that's kind of what this is. Even grindcore sounding at times.
Yeah. So what does that mean that they're doing mathcore? Is that like they're... It was hard for me to pick up. Like, I didn't catch that there was different time signatures, but I think there is weird, like, mathy stuff going on for sure.
So I'm not sure what the mathcore thing is either. I don't know what the definition. From what I've heard, it's just like off time signatures that shouldn't fitting together.
It sounds definitely impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, there's times where there's the guitar is being played not like what you would normally hear somebody play a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like chaotic. Is that a good way of putting it?
I would say, yeah, it's chaotic at times.
It's like the murder scene from Psycho.
Kind of, but way faster.
Yeah, exactly.
This album also, was an album that they started venturing out a little bit more too with like electronic stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of electronics in this.
Yeah.
Like every song has some electronics. They're distorting the sounds of the instruments as well as putting like samples and keyboards and shit on top of it.
Yeah, this band in the early days had like a weird thing because, some of the members were into just dance and EDM music and some of the members were into hardcore and stuff. And then that constant like push-pull that they had going on, it caused a lot of tension in the band from what I read, but it also caused them to create like this music that shouldn't have gone together, but really they made it work well.
And it's got like crazy song arrangements.
It does.
Nothing, there's no choruses really. I mean, there's hooks and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not a normal song structure.
The songs are short as well.
Yeah.
They're very short, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I've always been a fan of Dillinger. I've always enjoyed their work. But to me, they're a band that actually just kind of got better with releases for me.
For sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, which doesn't happen very often.
And I think that's where I kind of came from. Like, I wasn't into their early stuff. And then I think it was, what was the white one? One of Us is a Killer.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that you and Kai really pushed on me. And I kind of really got into that one. And then the next one, Disassociation, came out. And then I kind of started exploring the backlog of stuff from those two. And those really got me into their style. And I think it helped me digest the earlier stuff in this album and stuff like that. I think, like you said, they get a lot better as they get older or later on in their career. I was such a big fan when in 2017 when they decided to call it quits, that I booked tickets to go to their last show in New York, and then I got stuck having to work and had to sell them.
That sucks.
I was bummed. I was like, oh, they'll get back together eventually. And they still haven't and still have no intention of it. And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
And then the vocals are mostly screaming like the whole time.
There's a lot of screaming.
He's singing quite a bit in here,
and he has a really good range on his voice. Like, he does.
His clean vocals are great. That's one of my likes,
this
actually.
Album sounds like Sex and Violence.
Like, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he does
interplayed with each other.
When he does his screaming stuff, he doesn't try to go into that extreme, deep, guttural scream. He keeps it real natural, like you're screaming at somebody across the subway or something.
Without trying to distort your voice.
Yeah, and it works really well. And it keeps, like he said, it keeps his clean vocals clean, and you can tell like he doesn't have that vocal fry that a lot of people who've been screaming for years have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I said before, I'm not a big Dillinger fan, but I did get into Kill or Be Killed, and he's in that band too, and I love his vocals in that, and I like his vocals in this quite a bit too.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I really liked about this is the sense of urgency that all the songs portray.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
And there's a really cool use of like cramming everything together and creating no space in between anything, the musical notes or the sections, but then they open up to like this kind of where they give you too much space with, you know, something just going on in the background, and it gets you calmed down, and then it jams it all down your throat again really well. And them doing that a lot really keeps me interested in it, you know. So it's like right when you're like, okay, it's been too many minutes of listening to the same part over and over, it opens up. You're like, oh, this is different, and then it comes right back in, and then there's like a little bit of a variation on it when it comes back in. We kind of touch on it. Greg's voice is really good throughout this whole album. His clean parts are really great, and I really like the use of the electronics parts that they do throughout. I'm not a big fan when bands do that, but I feel like they did it on this, and they did it pretty tastefully. The use of like the trumpets and violins and stuff on some of the songs is really cool too. It's not something you heard in that kind of style of music back in the day.
I think they use trumpet really well on Milk Lizard.
Yes.
Like I've heard a lot of bands do trumpet and it feels tacked on. That doesn't feel tacked on. It feels like it's intentional, and it really suits the music. That's a killer song.
Well, I think all three of us can agree that song is...
I like Black Bubblegum a lot too.
Bubblegum's probably my favorite song on
There's some groovy ones on here. I also like Horse Hunter and Mouth of Ghosts.
Yeah, dude. Horse Hunter, Brent Hines from Mastodon does vocals in that.
That's right. Yeah, he does guest vocals on that.
What I like about it is the chaotic parts, and I do like that they break it down with some of the little electronic stuff, and his vocals are just great. So those are some of my favorite things. It's just so violent and just impulsive, and I really like that, the urgency of it.
Yeah. And then another thing to kind of touch on, and I don't know if it's really a like as much as it's interesting, and maybe it's kind of bordering dislike, but the lyrical content on this, a lot of this has to do with kind of it seems like a lot to do with, pretty much telling somebody to fuck off. But they're real basic lyrics. Like a lot of stuff's repeated. There's some kind of like ulterior motives hidden in there that you kind of have to dig for. Somebody was saying, and I don't know if it's true or not, that Greg did a poetry and photography book.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I didn't read it, but I wonder if it's any good, because the lyrics, they go together, but there's like, you kind of have to dig in them to get any meaning from them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I like about them. Yeah. It's like a David Lynch film with words. Cool. You know what I mean? I don't know really what's going on, but I kind of have an idea, and I'll just, whatever I think it is what I think it is.
You're like, no, I'm enjoying it regardless.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong.
And then another thing that I think I would have to say that I don't like about this is on the parts that we were kind of talking about where they get real, like, urgent, some of those parts could get so urgent that they kind of feel muddy, and you kind of lose track of what's going on.
Fuck yeah, dude. This shit is noisy as fuck. That was why I've been waiting to say this. That's why I didn't like Calculating Infinity. I was just like, this sounds like noise. The first two tracks on this are noisy as shit. I would have, if I picked this album up and played it, I would probably not have finished it. But I listened to the whole thing numerous times.
The title of the first track, though, Fix Your Face.
That was so good.
And it like such a good. I'm sorry, I have to just mention that's a good song title.
It is really good,
and it sounds like
I hate to say it, but like the noisy parts don't make sense to me. It's just I sound like an old man. I'm like, it just sounds like fucking noise. Like turn that shit down. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I can't. I don't get it. And I feel like the electronics are distracting.
I think I like that there's electronic stuff there, but I think it's not executed well. I mean, honestly, this is definitely not one of my favorite albums by the Dillinger Escape Plan, but I do enjoy it. But there's like a lot of dead space even within this. It's like go balls out or not. Like I think, what is it, tracks 4 and 5, like the little interlude things that they have.
The when acting as a wave and when acting as
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like even like I don't know. There's just a lot of dead space for me within this.
So the dead space, like I kind of agree with you. There's some dead space that you're kind of like, okay, well that was. It's weird because it's an interlude, but the end of the interlude picks up like it's going to be okay. Well, it was just a really long intro, and we're going to get a song now. But then it ends, which is kind of weird. But that said, the when acting as a wave. That's one of my favorite tracks on this because of the glitch part that they do with the background. I think it works really well and it's really cool.
It kind of is themed with the artwork too, if you think about it, like the way the art is. And
I think the art's cool, yeah.
You know,
and then they have that one song that's like 5, 2, 6, 8, 8 or some shit like that. Like, do I have to do math to like enjoy this album? It feels like I have to do work to really understand it, and I just couldn't get into it.
Okay,
and then. Like on Sick on Sunday, there's like weird sampling going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had to pause it. I'm like, do I hear that?
So I think kind of how you were talking about the glitchiness on some of the stuff. Sick on Sunday kind of starts it. And then it kind of goes into that when acting like a particle. And it's kind of glitchier, but it feels almost like a continuation of that. And then it goes into another track, I think, and then it goes into when acting as a wave, which I really liked. But yeah, it's kind of weird that the way that they spaced them out, and they almost feel like filler.
Yeah, it's definitely filler to me. I feel like, and also the songs are short. They're like I mean, Dillinger has longer songs, and well, they come to have longer songs, and they grow as a band. So I feel like this is like a stepping. This is like a step into where they're wanting to go and where they went.
And I agree with that because Greg's solo thing, the Black Queen.
Yeah, I never
got into it either.
I never tried listening to it. And I didn't give a shit.
But it's kind of that. It's kind of that techno thing, kind of that they started in this, taken to an extreme.
More electronics.
So another thing I wanted to bring up was this album was actually ranked number 3 on Decibel's Top 40 of 2007.
I saw that too.
Right
in 2007, though, it might have hit a little better. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it was right underneath Watain Sworn and Sworn to the Dark, and Pig Destroyer's Phantom Limb was number 2.
Pig Destroyer, Phantom Limb.
Those two albums are definitely by far better.
Yeah, way
for
better.
Sure. But for it to just be ranked up there with that kind of stuff, I mean, it tells you how much.
It's because it's fucking overrated. This band's overrated, in my opinion.
Well, I would definitely disagree with that.
I would have to definitely
because there's Dillinger.
You guys need to send me another album that's better than this.
Did I not tell you that?
Yeah.
When Casey picked this album, I was like, "Really, this one?"
Yeah.
And then like I have the CD and I put it, in my work truck, and
I'm not gonna go out on my way unless you put it.
I literally skip a few songs, and then all of a sudden I'm in the because I don't like the excess noise electronic stuff. It sounds like something.
You can't headbang
that a teenage kid was playing in his room, I don't know.
Well, and that's kind of where I was at. I didn't want to pick, I would say One of Us is a Killer is probably their best album, in my opinion. This is up there. This is maybe third best. But I'm with you. It's not my favorite Dillinger.
This is their third best?
To me.
Yeah, I don't like this band.
Well, but that's just to me. You might like something else.
I definitely love Dillinger. I like this album. You know what I mean? But it's a confrontational album for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is me and them disagreeing. You know what I mean?
Well said. You can't headbang to this. Like, none of this is...
No, this was strictly made for swinging your arms and hitting somebody.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, there's no, clean rhythm to it ever.
I would have loved to see
this has quite a bit of rhythm on this album. I think that you just dislike the chaotic part so much that you
bypass everything else.
Bypass all the other.
It's just choppy as shit. You know what I mean? There's no...
Maybe they had to chop it down. The producer's like, you know what? We're taking this out. It was a 4-minute song.
They just cut it all out and just left all the wood. That's what it sounds like. I'm just kidding.
When they wrote it out on sheet, the 2 minutes was actually 98 pages.
Oh, this is technical. This is technical stuff that they're doing.
That's what I mean.
There's no space between the notes.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Phantom Limb. That's one of the things that we liked about it. That it was constant go.
Mm-hmm.
That has way more groove than this, and more headbanger.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's easier to It's in 4/4 time or whatever, right?
It's easier to listen to, but I think that's the other thing is you're really into standard timings and stuff. You really vibe on that.
No. I appreciate Meshuggah.
He's like, don't
Don't
call me
patronize me, sir. Don't patronize me.
Don't you dare.
Don't you ever say
I've been listening to Meshuggah since the 90s.
You think
Gods of Rapture's like in 5'8" or some shit. I listen to Dave Weckl and all kinds of jazz and shit.
Okay, we believe you, man.
I'm getting heated.
And like I was saying earlier, this is like a confrontational album for me with this band. So it's hard for me to rate this, but I rate this a 3.8.
Oh.
And I like when there's Dillinger music going on. I don't like the other stuff. It's a stepping stone for him, so yeah.
I give this a 2.9 out of 5. I didn't hate it. I don't get the hype. I don't get it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If I want short, chaotic songs, I'm going to go listen to grindcore.
Mm-hmm.
If I want crazy electronic stuff, I'll listen to Igor. It's super noisy except for a few tracks, but it's not horrible. I would listen to it again.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I pulled some tracks off this for sure.
Oh yeah,
in my monthly playlist. Like,
Nice.
I would agree with you that there's some killer tracks.
There
on
are
there.
some.
So 2.9 for me. What about you, Casey?
So I give this 4.6.
Wow. Wow.
This is a
That's-
really
yeah, that's
good
a-
album, and I love the way that they incorporate all the different styles and tempos and beats and timings and cram them all together in ways that shouldn't work, but they do. And I also think it curbs my ADD. It keeps my attention through the whole thing. Like, I notice, like, especially as I'm getting older, I'm like in my 60s now, that I can't even sit and watch a TV show without doing the old man thing and falling
Yeah.
asleep. I could listen to this without falling asleep. Or
It's a quick listen.
yeah,
It plays pretty quick.
but I could listen to it without sidetracking myself and doing something else and totally forgetting the music's there. Like, it engages me the whole time. So 4.6.
Yeah, I just feel like there's not enough, like, that's so hard because
You want to like it.
I want to like it, I do. And I remember when it came out, I feel like they're not an overrated band. This is an overrated album.
Oh,
In
sure.
2007, all my friends were listening to this, and so was I. I enjoyed
Oh,
it.
yeah.
But now that years have gone past, you know what I mean? And also, Greg got way better as a
Oh,
vocalist.
he did, for sure.
The members just are tighter and better in later albums.
Mhm.
So, yeah, this is just a weird band for me that I just like their stuff better as they go.
This is Blenderstyle. That was the Dillinger Escape Plan, Ire Works. This feels like never blending.